Okay, welcome back to the channel, everybody. We've got a bit of shaft testing for you in this particular video, and we're going to take a look at shaft length. So obviously there's a lot of talk around, obviously Bryson DeChambeau at the moment, creating the speed that he is doing, playing longer shafts, and maybe we see a lot of the manufacturers in modern day drivers now really pushing the limits on the length of the golf shafts in drivers as well. So Cobra, for example, this year, and this is the reason I'm going to be using this in this video, we're actually having an option, and it is an option, it's not as standard, but there is an option there to have a 46-inch shaft length for a driver, which obviously is as long as we've seen it as an option for you purchasers out there. And I'm putting it up against their standard option, which is 45.5. So most around that 45.5, some are creeping to 45.75. So only half an inch difference between these two shafts. I'm going to test them both. Same head, same shaft, and same flex and everything, just that half-inch difference of length, and we'll see what maybe the pros and the cons are of that extra length. Okay, so obviously shaft length, this is going to be through a fitting process. You're hopefully going to be trying some different options. And for me as a fitter, I'll be looking at sort of trying to really control stripe pattern on the club face. So probably one of the maybe the disadvantages of going longer in the shaft for a lot of golfers is it's then struggle to try and get a consistency of that stripe pattern, because the length increases, a little bit harder to control, and obviously control then the stripe pattern. We know then the slight mishits on the driver can affect the launch, the spin, the ball speed and everything like that. So a strike's obviously important here, and this is again for you when you're going out to maybe try these. Obviously you've got to be measuring strike. In that fitting session you need to be measuring that strike, because that is really, really important. It's no good getting that one that you flushed there with that long length and that gives you some extra distance, but over multiples of shots it's actually maybe not even any longer, or if anything could be more destructive on your shot dispersion. So I'm going to start off with the 45.5 inch, which is typical standard for a lot of brands nowadays. Motori X F3 in a stiff. The reason I'm using that one is because I've got exactly the same shaft in the 46 inch as well. And obviously he's going to use it with the Rad Speed driver head. And that's a good solid hit to open up with. Lovely golf shot there. Very neutral, good strike, good ball speed, 165, just short of. So we'll keep obviously a little eye on this club head speed, that's one we want to look at, but then obviously the ratio in terms of that ball speed, because again the strike will play a massive part of that. If we can get some good solid strikes, we can turn that good club head speed into some good ball speed, and obviously then that's the efficiency rating. Okay. Fraction toe side, just working a touch up that left hand side, but again club head speed in around that 112, just touching 113, 284 on that carry. Okay, so that wasn't bad again. A little bit quicker on that one, 114.8, didn't feel that much quicker actually, but just fraction heel. Got that spin up a tiny bit. That's a nice solid strike, drifting a fraction up that right hand side. Good solid connection though. So in an ideal world I'd probably prefer to have an X in this, just that little bit of stability to my sort of speed. As I say, I want to have the same shaft for both for this test to try and keep it even. So maybe looking at spin there, it's a little bit on that high side. I'm not too worried about that, and distance I'm looking more around that sort of dispersion, club head speed, ball speed in terms of the shaft length and that stripe pattern. Good hit. Okay, so there's a few shots hit with the 45.5 inch in length. As I say, this is typically more as a standard option with a lot of brands nowadays. We'll jump into the, keep the same head, but into the 46 inch, half inch longer, and we'll see how that differs if it does at all. Okay, so 46 inches, and I tell you what, even though it's just half an inch, you can definitely feel that bit of length difference there. Now, everybody's a little bit different, and again, this is where maybe you use as an individual when you're trying these, is some people might not notice that, and sometimes in a fitting session I'll play around with the shaft length a little bit. Won't say what it is exactly I put in the hands, and some just carry on hitting and they haven't actually noticed any difference in length. Some obviously will. So again, it's very personal. I know this is longer, so where that's playing, but I can notice there's that little bit of length length in there. You know, bear in mind I'm 6'5", so you know, I think 46 should feel quite standard to me being tall, but I play with a shaft length that's a little bit shorter than standard, so it does feel long, and it feels long compared to that 45.5. So as I say, be interested to see what happens to club head speed, how much of a jump, if there is a jump, but also how does that control of strike change. Okay, that felt a good strike to start off with. Just loft that up, bit up that right hand side. So club head speed 113.3, 165 ball. Again, just a little bit up that right hand side. Just over that 113 again, club head. A bit straight on that particular shot. 114.5, a little bit more with that particular one. And I think first instincts there, I mean, my strikes are all right. I mean, I'm quite lucky. I don't really struggle too much with my ball striking. I think if anything, I tend to miss it slight heel, slight low in the face if I have got a particular miss. So potentially that little bit of extra length might not help me with that certain miss that I have in terms of strike pattern. But as a feeling, again, this is for you guys out there, it's a response of how do you react to that length of shaft. And to me, it just feels a little bit like, there's a bit in the back of my mind thinks, oh God, I'm just going to hit a bit of a wild one here. It feels like I've just lost a little bit of that control, sort of security in a way, is a feeling. Yeah, I'm just sort of losing a little bit of that shape of the shot, hitting a little bit more of those cuts. So yes, I have gained a little bit of club head speed, but I just feel like the ball flight's just getting away from me a little bit more than what I would like. And again, it's up that right hand side. So for me, just still struggling to control a little bit of that. Okay, there's 5 shots hit with each. I know it's only a small sample there, but it's going to give you a little bit of an idea. So we'll go and look at a few numbers in detail, have a little look at strike against that 45.5 and that 46 inch. Okay, so we'll look at the dispersion rings to start off with, the white being the 45.5, the yellow being 46 inch. And to be honest, they're probably quite similar, aren't they? It's just the 46, I just moved it a little bit more up that right hand side, but probably between the left and the right of the furthest left to the furthest right shot, probably quite similar, just a touch straighter with the 45.5. It just felt, as I say, as a reaction to me, it felt like I'm potentially going to lose it a lot more with that slightly longer shaft, just that lack of control as a feel. So then we look at the numbers there. So you see 45.5 on the bottom. So you see 113 on average club head speed, 113.9 on average with the 46. So yes, I've gained 0.9 of a mile an hour on average over those 5 shots, which, okay, that could be a significant gain for certain golfers. Then look at it in terms of, I mean, that's just one element. Look at it in terms of then how does that translate into a ball speed? So you can see 164.1 to 164.4. So I've only gained 0.3 of a mile an hour. So 0.9 of a mile an hour gain club head speed should return more than 0.3 ball speed, and it hasn't done. And again, it goes around that strike. So if you have a quick look at the strikes. Okay, so this heat patch here tells us all the strikes on top of each other. With the 45.5, so pretty central there, sort of edging a fraction to that toe, but you know, they're pretty much on the money, aren't they, in a way. And then when we look at the 46.5, you can see they've just moved around a little bit more lower in the face, a couple a little bit higher, just not quite as concentrated. We lose that real bright red patch that we see there with the 46. So clearly there, the strike pattern is much more consistent with that ½ inch shorter in that length. So even though I've gained that extra 0.9 mile an hour club head speed, which sounds great, and you know, think, oh, that's great, I'll have that, but then haven't quite matched my strike pattern as good and as consistent. Okay, so for me, that's really important. And going back to what I said earlier in the video, it's really important that if you're going to go and get fitted, you want to be having a device or a fitter who's going to look at your strike patterns, compare it as you change maybe around not only just the length of the shaft, but also the flex and the weight of the shaft as well in certain heads. So really important to look at that. So yes, I've gained some club head speed with that longer shaft, which on paper you think, great, that's fantastic, but it hasn't transferred into that ball speed because of my strikes just being moving around. And I'm a pretty decent ball striker, so I'm not saying that you're not, but if certain golfers will be really good on the ball strike, and maybe then they'll get that return from that extra club head speed, but also then as that element of that personal, individual, that feel. You know, I don't think there's anything can really substitute that. It felt like it was a little bit harder to control. My striking pattern wasn't quite as good. I'd feel nervous if I'm stood on a golf hole with trouble up the left and the right with that shot. I just feel like I'm going to lose it a lot more. So that's an emotional element that you've also got to weigh into the equation, haven't you? So interesting little test there. It is only 1/2 inch. It has created a different club head speed, but for me, in that small little test, hadn't transferred into that ball speed and also that accuracy. Okay, post comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you feel like you're a really good ball striker, would like to look at a 46-inch length of driver shaft to try and get those extra few yards in there, or is the control aspect a bigger importance for you as an individual, as a golfer? And I'll probably always say the accuracy is always the important one, isn't it? You know, especially on those tighter holes when you're out there. But I'd love to hear your comments as always, so post them in the section down below. Appreciate you watching the video as always. If you enjoyed it, do share it around, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button more importantly if you haven't done so. If you have, appreciate your support as always, and hopefully catch up with you all very soon.